Okay, now it is time to create our stairs, but to do that, what I want to do is I want to actually reuse this texture on top of this face, but I want to make sure that it's in the exact same spot as it was on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a gesture called projected texture. And what that is that is taking a material and putting it on one face and then using that face to project that texture onto another material that it might not necessarily want to wrap around. Here is an example. I'm going to take a rectangle off to the side and I'm going to group it and give it some volume. And then I'm going to carve an irregular face out of it, by which I mean something like an arc, and push-pull that down. So I have an arc, like a negative of a cylinder, push-pulled down and out from this shape. And I want vertical wood slats going up and down. If I go to my B for bucket and pull up my wood slats and apply them, what happens is it's going horizontally. And I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to turn it so that it's going up and down. But I can't select this as a texture because it's a curved face. So what I have to do is I have to actually make another texture outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that. I have to make another texture that's separate from this and sample it off of this face onto this face. So I'm going to make a rectangle here, and I'm going to double click on this and make it a group. Then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to choose my texture, apply it to this face, right click, go down to texture, position. First things first, I need to rotate this 90 degrees, and maybe I'll scale it up just a little bit. Say done when I'm done by right clicking. Now I'm going to right click and go down to texture once again and make this a projected texture. So this is now going to act as a projector that projects this texture here onto this face. So if I close this group by clicking out in space and double click onto this face, if I were to go back to this again, the same thing's going to happen. It's going to wrap the way it wrapped before. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to actually sample from this closed group, but this face, this texture, and I want to click on that and apply it to this face. So what it's doing is it's actually projecting this face here directly back, and you can actually see that it's stretching at the corners as you start to get to the sides, or the edges I should say, because if I move this back in place here, you can see if I look at this, I'll move it down just so you can kind of see exactly what I'm looking at. If I look at this straight on with almost no perspective, you can see that it's really just projecting those perfectly back, and it's skewing it as I get to the edge. So if I'm looking at this straight on like that, it actually looks like that looks. So that's just kind of a quick intro to this. We'll do it a couple more times later on. But what I do want to do is if I use this as a projected texture, if I select the face of this, right click and go down to texture and click on projected, you'll notice, I'm going to right click and show you again, you'll notice that it's a on-off switch, meaning it's checked or unchecked. So it's now referred to as a projected texture. So I can now open up this shape and sample from the bottom face or from the face of the slab that I've created and just paint this right on top. And that gives me my texture on this face as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close that now. Whoops, that was the close that. Sometimes this happens where for some reason your file gets a little bit messed up and it actually starts to skew a little bit. When this happens, what I do, and it's actually, I'm glad it actually happened in the middle of a video, because we always run into these problems and we think, why isn't it working the way it should? My fix for this, if I do a projected texture and for some reason it moves off to the side a little bit because this one's already been edited a while ago, what I'll do is I'll just explode this, and it typically almost always comes back to the way it should be. And then I can just group it again. So now when I open this up, it's going to work exactly as it should be. So again, I'm going to Apple Z, I'm going to take that back a few steps. You can see that I did what I should have done. I did my projected texture, and then I clicked up from this face to this face, and it was working. But when I closed it, it for some reason misread the information. So if I just right click and explode, I'm going to get my texture back the way it should be. And if the texture for some reason doesn't come back the way it should be, I'm just going to select this face and I'm going to resample from this face, and I'm going to pull it up with my bucket tool. I'm going to resample and I'm just going to paint it again on that face. So if I now make this a group and move it up into space, you can see that it's exactly the same. This face is exactly the same as it is here. And we're going to use this on a couple different elements within this. We're also going to use this to help work out the porch and the garage. But for now, go ahead and use your plan that is a material on the bottom of the slab. Use it as a projected texture and project it onto those stairs to get your texture there so that we can start to make these stairs the way they should be. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to double click and open this up, and we're going to make sure that the slab at the top is 11 feet high, because as you look in homework on item number 7, it says build the second floor slab, which is also the first floor ceiling. The finished floor of the second floor slab is plus 11.0. So I know that when I land at the top of my landing, I want to be at 11 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the bottom of this shape, and I'm going to click and drag a guide up, and I'm going to type 11 feet, enter, and I'm going to pull my face up to that point and click. And now I can close that group. And I'm going to do a Shift D to delete all those guides. So we are now at the top, and we can begin to start carving these stairs out and bringing them down.